Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to the class on history. The previous class, I had explained to you about the different rulers of Mughal dynasty and also the different sources that we have regarding the Mughal dynasty. Today, we are going to discuss about the reforms put forward by Akbar. What are the reforms? What are the changes that brought about by the person called Akbar? There are three important reforms put forward by this particular person. The first one is a Rajput policy. Second, steps towards integration. Steps towards the integration. And third one is social and educational reforms. Social and educational reforms. These are the three important changes or steps taken by Akbar. So let's come to the first one. What do you mean by Rajput policy? It is one of the greatest achievements of Akbar. And what do you mean by the term called Rajput policy? It is the marriage alliances. Alliances means marriage agreement with the Rajputs. It means they will enter into a marriage relationship with the Rajput rulers so that there is an agreement, there is a compromise between these two people. As a result of this particular policy, Hakrabai was married to Akbar. So Rajput policy means it is the marriage alliances with the Rajputs. As a result of this particular policy, Hakrabai was married to Akbar. And Akbar had given complete religious freedom to his wives. So he had more than one wife. So he had given complete religious freedom to his wives, and he gave very respectful position or places to their parents in nobility or in the court. Okay, so Akbar gave complete religious freedom to his wives, and he honored by giving high positions to their parents in the nobility. And what was the advantage of this particular policy put forward by Akbar? The most important advantage was that it entered, which means it put a full stop to the centuries-old enmity, hatred between the Muslim rulers and the Rajputs. So because of this particular policy, because of this particular marriage alliances with the Rajput, it put a full stop. It brought an end to the centuries-old enmity, hatred between the Muslim rulers and the Rajputs. And the policies of Mughal Empire were considerably affected because of the presence of these rulers, because of presence of their parents who were made as equal partners. Which means because this particular Rajput policy, it affected the public policies of Mughals as they were equal partners with the Mughals. So there was a problem faced by Akbar later, and it helped the growth of a composite culture. Composite culture means the growth of a mixed culture. So these are the three advantages of this particular policy put forward by Akbar. It stopped the age-old enmity between the Muslim rulers and the Rajputs. The presence of these persons, the Rajput persons, affected the public policies of the Mughal Empire, and there was a growth of a composite culture in the place. So that's the first one, the Rajput policy. Second one, what are the steps taken for integration? Which means one of the aims of Akbar was to promote a greater understanding between Hindus and the Muslims, to bring about this kind of unity between Hindus and the Muslims. That was one of the aims of Akbar. So he wanted to have a growth of liberal views and cultural and emotional integration of people. So this was the aim of Akbar, to have a greater understanding between Hindus and the Muslims, and to have a growth of liberal free views, and to have cultural and emotional integration of the people. So what are the steps taken by Akbar? The first step taken by him was to abolish, to stop the poll tax that was paid by the non-Muslims. The non-Muslims had to pay the tax called the poll tax, and it was completely stopped by Akbar. Second, it abolished the pilgrim tax. The poll tax. Second is the pilgrim tax, which means there was tax to be paid for bathing at the holy places. If you have to take bath at the holy place, you will have to pay the tax, and that particular tax was abolished by Akbar. And third one, he abolished the practice of forcibly converting prisoners of war to Islam. Okay, prisoners, which means he stopped forcibly converting the prisoners of war to Islam, and he allowed the Hindus, or he brought the Hindus to the nobility. And in 1575, he began something called a Ibadat Khana, which means a hall of prayer. Ibadat Khana, which means hall of prayer. What is the purpose of this particular hall? At Fatehpur Sikri, selected theologians, mystics and intellectuals will come together, and they will have discussion on religious and spiritual matters. That happened in 1575 in Ibadat Khana, which means a hall of prayer. In that particular hall of prayer, there used to come the theologians, mystics, intellectuals, and they will sit together and they will discuss spiritual and religious matters. And he made a declaration that made Akbar as a supreme power. A declaration which made Akbar as a supreme power in the field, in the religious matters. With regard to religious matters, Akbar was made as a supreme head, and he replaced the power of ulema by the power of the emperor. Which means he replaced the power of ulema, and Akbar made a declaration that he will be the supreme power in religious matters. And the next step taken by Akbar was that he promulgated a new faith called Din Ilahi. Din Ilahi means this particular religion was based on the principle of oneness of God. There is only one God, and they inculcated, or they promoted the virtues of courage, loyalty and justice. And one thing that was demanded by this particular religion, this particular faith, was the people must be loyal to the emperor. And what is the purpose of having this particular new faith? It is to form universal harmony among the people. That was the concept, that was the purpose, that was the aim why he began something called a new faith called Din Ilahi, which was based on the principle of oneness of God. Virtues like courage, loyalty and justice were promoted. The one demand was to be loyal to the emperor, and the purpose was to form universal harmony. And the last step taken by was to have the translation. He introduced a big translation department. And what did he do? Sanskrit, Arabic and Greek literature, things written in Sanskrit, Arabic and Greek were translated into Persian language. Okay, the Bible, Atharva Veda were in the process of translation. Later, the Holy Quran, the Mahabharata, the Gita, the Ramayana were taken up for translation. These are the steps taken by Akbar for a kind of integration or kind of a greater understanding between the Hindus and the Muslims. The second one, the steps taken towards the integration. Moving on to the next one, there is social and educational reforms. The first step taken by him was he ordered the police report wards to check the forcible practice of sati happening in the area. But if it is done on their own will, they were allowed to do so. But to check whether there was forcible practice of sati happening in the area. Next one, legalized widow remarriage. Widow remarriage was allowed by the king, and he was against anyone having more than one wife unless the first wife could not bear children. He was against having more than one wife, and a person could have a second wife if the first wife could not bear children. And he raised the age of marriage. Girls it was 14, boys it was 16. Next step, he revised educational syllabus, giving emphasis on moral education, mathematics, agriculture, geometry, astronomy, logic and history. And other emperors, the people who came after him, so these are the steps taken by Akbar, and the people who came after him were also patrons of education, which means the kings who came after Akbar, they also supported education. And Sohra-i-Aram, the person, was in charge of building schools and colleges, and Shah Jahan introduced providing scholarships to assist the students, and there was the existence of female education, and the girls from rich family were given private tuitions at home, and the middle class girls could attend the same schools as the boys. So these were the three reforms or changes brought about by the person called Akbar. The first one, the Rajput policy. Second, the steps towards the integration to have a greater understanding between Hindus and the Muslims. Third one, social and educational reforms. So it is clear for you. And next, the topic that is remaining is what was the administrative system of the Mughals. Under that particular heading, there are 6 points to be learned. The monarch, ministers, judiciary, provincial government, mansabdari system and the land revenue system. And there are two. So when it comes to this particular topic called administrative system of Mughals, this administrative system of Mughals dependent on 2 strong pillars. There are 2 strong pillars that supported the administrative system of the Mughals. The first one was the absolute authority of the emperor. It means the king was the ultimate authority in the place, and the strength of the army. These are the 2 pillars, 2 strong pillars on which the administrative system of the Mughals existed. The absolute power of the emperor, second, the strength of the army. That we will take in the coming classes. We will see about the administrative system of the Mughal emperor. I have sent the notes. Kindly complete the notes. Okay, children. Thank you.